So variables, data types, what makes them tick. So we're going to talk about that today. A variable, when you create a variable, all you're doing is you're saying, hey computer, there's a piece of information I need you to keep track of. And then you're going to say, please store this piece of information. Different pieces of information take up different sizes and different amounts of memory. And so those are called data types. When you store something on your computer, it needs somewhere to store it. So what it does is it takes all of the memory that it has available, and then it allocates a small section of that memory. And it says, okay, here's where I'm going to store the information that you give me. And it can store it in different size boxes. So I've got a box this size, and I've got a box this size. Your computer does a similar thing when it's storing pieces of information. It tries to find the right size box to store it in. So if I had a small piece of information, I'd store it in this box. If I have a larger piece of information, I'd store it in this box. And that is how your computer works with pieces of information, is it finds the right box for them. Now, if I were to ask you, what is in this box, you probably couldn't tell me. Not unless you've watched further in this video and you know exactly what's in this box. If I put a label on this box and it said electronics, then you'd probably guess that there's electronics in here. If I put a different label on this box and I said action figures, then you guess there are probably action figures. I could be really specific with the label, and I could say this box, if I put a label on it that said posable action figures, then you'd probably guess that there are some posable action figures in there. As a matter of fact, there are. So I have posable action figures, and then this can illustrate the point of size. So this box, different sizes. If I took the action figure from the one box and attempted to store it in the other box, it probably doesn't fit very well. And so because it does not fit, if I was a computer, then I would throw a fit and you would get an error. So when you are programming with variables, what you are saying is you're saying set aside a certain amount of space. Some variables take up more space than others, and we'll talk a little bit about that in another video. But I want you to think, when you're creating a variable, how much space do you want it to take up? Do you want to take up a little bit of space or a lot of space? And then when you're naming your variable, that's like putting a label on these boxes. Do you want your variable to be descriptive so that someone knows what's inside of it? Or do you just want to put a random label on it and then no one will know what's in there? So those are some things to think about with variables. We'll talk about the actual code in the next video.